Okay, let's see what can I get this up and running. How's our volume? Okay. The Kafka pieces aren't going to work because console, I bet you, so I removed all my scripts around earlier on, and I bet you that I changed where some of this stuff was sitting. Localhost 85. Yeah, also a configuration. Yeah, that's wrong. That's the default sort of configuration. So what I do is I go over here, go to configurations, copy that. There's also a lot. Then we need to create Kafka configuration. Like here, copy that, save that. There you go. Now the services should start properly. I'm testing upgrading the packages. So these packages should all be an 18.1. Yeah. Which I believe is the latest version of all that. Okay, that's healthier. Let's make sure this runs. If nothing worse here, then that's also okay because I want to make sure that I'm actually able to. Oh, object literal has pending updates doesn't exist. That could be because the store has subscribe notifications feature. Has pending updates with state. I think I'm missing something there in that piece. App, modules, planning, stores, features. Yeah. I have refresh state. No. No. Changes. Oh, this is actually interesting. Has pending updates. Ah, because I've probably not told it. So I did upgrade the NGRX store, so it's possible that something I was getting away with before is no longer possible. Entity changes. They may have made something more strict. It might not know about what this looks like. The entity itself. Does that say signal store thing? So what we're going to look at is show history. Git show history. I did move all this stuff around recently. Interesting. Now, has pending updates. Planning item has pending updates. So I think that's probably because I don't have on the store that's using that. Where's the store? What uses this? Planning item store. Request status. I think what's missing is telling it that that is an actual planning items create. I think it's this piece that's missing. Fix that as well. Fix that. Clean these up. Make sure. Yeah. I think that's more likely to work. It was just assuming it. There you go. So that should be running. So we should be able to get here. Sign in. User. Tables users. It's our primary user. Continue without passkey. Okay. I'll take a second to load. There you go, past you. Okay, so the app is running. The app is building on the latest version of Angular. So I was a little bit behind on that. It's loading. I don't want to push my luck and test other things right this second. Okay, so let's stop that. Push these changes. Hey Mojo, how you doing? Just testing this. Use alias directory. Save on. Having fun UI discussions. Nice. Oh, I've still got Soul in it installed in this one. Hopefully, a browser developer sees my idea and implements it. I'll have to read that back over. I've seen that there's a conversation going on. I just was more focused on ordering dinner. So should be in here in about 20 or 30 minutes. But I decided I wanted to get this stream up and actually record this part because it's working. Add with entities. So the with entities here is actually saying, okay, this is the type of entity. So when you update it, this is the object you're updating. So it looks like they've introduced some sort of type checking, whereas previously it was kind of, hey, it's anonymous, it's fine. I'll trust that you know what you're doing. Now it's actually, I have to explain that to Signal Store for subscribe. It's not really. It's a feature that's probably best deprecated anyway. This, but well, not really. This one. This is probably best fixed. But anyway, that should update all the Angular dependencies to the right versions. That should put everything at 18.1.3. Now the question is, and I got that running without using the CLI because I don't know how. Oh, because it temporarily updated itself to this version when I did ng upgrade. Now let's see if I can actually get the right Angular version to run. ng pm install -d Angular CLI at 18.1.3. I did latest and it gave me 1803 anyway. Unless my node version wasn't set correctly. No, that shouldn't even matter. That's not running from this directory. All good. Okay, where are you deployed then? ng version. Node 2251. So where are you installed? ng update. Right, because you're not valid in this directory. npm uninstall -g Angular CLI at 18.0.3. npm uninstall Angular CLI. Angular CLI remove using npm. npm cache clean. Let's try npm cache clean -- false. Now I have to do it for the same reason. npm uninstall -g Angular CLI. npm cache clean -- false. Now it's a matter of pride. Okay. ng version. You shouldn't do anything. Where are you installed? npm -g ls. Hold on. Hold on. Uninstall Angular. Have I installed Angular CLI? No. Nope, didn't work. So I wondered if I'd installed it in my local directory, like I'd actually installed it here. Right? ng. Okay. No, it's still there. Why can't I upgrade Angular CLI to 18.1.3, 18.0.3? If you're doing open build files, remote CSS, resolve it. Profile, what maps to? You mean in the this is PowerShell. Why don't you install globally though? Because you can't do that on this thing. ng dash version. Yeah. If PowerShell's doing in bash DAs or something. Where is it? Oh, you're suggesting I've installed it in a hold on. No, but it's not in my path. Right. Properties. Environment variables. NVM home, NVM PS. There's no way that would be installed. Because realistically, what I want is a where alternative. Let's find out. Solution to be as well. Yeah, command ng.path. cdc users to their roaming PMLS. I did install NVM, yeah. Oh. No, why should that matter? Cat ng.ps1. So it creates alternate versions? No. What is that? Based yeah, I did npm on the PC before I installed NVM. Yeah. Well, that's 2251. Is it use? NVM use 21. Yeah. Yeah. npm uninstall -g Angular CLI. what I was looking for. So yeah, npm is uninstalled somewhere, but ng is linked to your standalone npm. So how do we get to the standalone npm? Well, that's now uninstalled. So npm use 20 use. Can I do latest? There. Yes, you can. npm. So ng. Right, there we go. npm install -d angular CLI at latest. Mr. Van Horn, good evening. How you doing? Sorry, I ended up just looking in the stream. I had to duck out before. How'd it go? Having fun with Node right now. Mojo and I have been tinkering. I'm only closing and reopening just for the sake of making sure that I reload things. Good. Now that I got the ST into the code, time to work through all the tests. All fun. ng -- version. ng version. There we go. Okay. That's so much fun with Node too. There you go. Latest version. Okay. Uninstall any pre-existing node. A little bit lower. Gotcha. Because they overlap. So realistically, I should uninstall 21 and reinstall it if I need it at this point. But I'm on 22 now anyway. Okay, so app builds, app runs on 22. Okay, that's a separate challenge. That's a whole different challenge to work with. So I really started the stream up. I don't know how long it'll be. I mean, some of it will be dictated by when food arrives. Well, I did just do something pretty mean and order food when it's kind of raining. What next? Okay, so obviously certain things reset. Those need to be there for the app to run. So one of the things I want to do here is I deleted the branch I'd done before. Feature T96. So the goal of this story is to show changes when you click on an inbox message. So if you get a planning item has changed, click on the index on the message. It will take you to the object into a detail page, and there will be a tab visible for changes. The changes, though, as we kind of covered last time I streamed, are kind of not in the right format right at the second, because changes are exported. GraphQL topics again. I need some scripts. The changes are exported as it's weird. It lost the messages and kept the. See, it knows there's a lag, but it doesn't have the lag. Yeah, it knows it's a lag. But it's got no messages to deal with. That's funny. Something went weird with the storage there for certain. So did I lose the code? um, sorry, just trying to think. So, oh yeah, that's what I was talking about last time I was streaming. So basically, what I'll need to do is say, okay, well, take the changes and convert them and gain and add the context in. And the reason I wouldn't do that as part of the changes itself is because then the changes would be doing too much. So the changes, it's hard enough to calculate, okay, what changed, etc. Offloading that processing to an extra step in the pipeline, although complicated, does give um um it does add some complexity, but it does allow me to apply extra context to the data on the way through. So um changes produces a stream of it takes an object, it compares it, it produces a stream of um, messages that are the entity and um, sorry, I'm just kind of I'm thinking through, do I want to do it this way? So I take publisher, I publish a new message, um, and I tell that there. Then this one takes that and publishes a new planning item change event. What I'm contemplating is changing this up and building the change streams as a single topic. I can modify that later. So here we go. So the transformer would live here. So the changes publishes out. Right now, I determine, oh, I've got a planning item change. Let me calculate what's happened. And I produce to the planning items changes stream. To do the transformer here, I then have to have a lot of consumers here independently listening for planning items, independent list. So I'd have to have many consumers per individual topic. But what I could do is change this to be a single stream of changes. So in this screen, the literally becomes liquid sky dot changes. And instead of having planning item change event, we have a events changes, um, change integration event, something like that, change event. And this has a string entity type attached to it. Then over here, no, over here, what we'd do there is we'd say, instead of that, we'd have change event, and that would go to changes, right? Now, when that publishes, it'll pick up this instead of that. And what we do is we do entity type dot. It's a tricky one. Dot planning item. And now that's a global changes stream. So with that done, what we need to do now is use a what's the word? Kafka Streams API. So Kafka Streams are kind of a way of manipulating this. And what you do is you kind of create a stream application that sits in between. So it's kind of a transformer. The benefit to doing it this way rather than set, because what I could do is I could write a whole application for consuming these and applying these changes. But what I can do here, I believe, is I can use Kafka streams to intercept. Food ads are making me hungry. I ordered food through DoorDash, and it's one of those where, and it's worth a while. But it's one of those where there's no dasher attaching to it. It's going to be one of those where we would get the food, it's going to be cold. So, joy. So what we do is we created. So do I have to create it in change? This is where this gets a bit messier because the changes. Do I do? Sorry, dog. Dog's happily lying under my feet. Do I do basically a folder for the streams application and then transform this on the way through? So the way this is going to look, workflows, ready for blindness, create new drawing, start mode, there you go. The way this is going to look is we're going to publish from, say, let's do circles. I like circles. All right. So this is coming from planning items. And that's going to go into changes. Which is going to process that change and feed out. So this case is like liquid sky dot planning items. So this is consuming that topic. Then we're going to produce liquid sky dot changes. And they're going to have a stream processor. Right. And I'm in two minds here, whether I produce one more stream or I produce back. Because this will be, what this will do is it'll filter out anything that's planning item entity type. It will filter it out and pull that out. So this will go to liquid sky dot planning item dot changes. Create and save a template in dark mode. But then how do I do new drawing from template? Or will it default to my template? And so ultimately, these are all going to get consumed into view right now, right this second. The benefit of having the separate topics, right, is yes, it goes in as planning items, it gets manipulated, it gets output as one set of changes. So that means you can actually consume all the changes from the entire application. Nothing says you have to process this. If you want the raw feed of changes, because you know more about the data, you can take the raw feed of changes, right? All this is going to do is to apply it to view, is going to take that stream, and right now I only have planning items. It's going to say, okay, well, if the entity type's planning item, then I'm going to process that, and I'm going to go through and apply this data to it, and I'm going to produce a new stream, liquid_sky.planning item that changes, and that's going to go and get consumed by view. So that's the idea. The reason I need to do this as part of this story is because the story is great if I change the title or the description, but if I change who it's assigned to, or I change the projects that it's assigned to, etc., those are GUIDs. So I need context of those changes to be able to say, oh yeah. Now the problem with this one as well is to get this working properly, this stream processor project would also need to consume planning items, right? And it also needs to consume. So the irony here is well, not the irony, the what might seem like an inefficient process is I'm going to have to pull in the context from the other things, right? Because planning items is just one of the pieces, right? If I need users, etc., this system has to consume those users. So this is a bit of a prototype. So let's do this. Let's do stream processors. And it is in changes. Let's do source, changes, changes, processors. It feels like the temptation is to say, well, I have all this data in view, or I have all this data. Well, no, view is the only component of the system that actually has all the data so far, because it's consumed all these topics to create the view, right? So if you need who is assigned to a project or who is assigned to a planning item, you need the tenant user to be able to see that, right? But the planning item itself is in the planning item system. Sorry, just checking on food. So yeah, the temptation would be to say, well, the view has the data. Why not use the view? But it's not really what that's for. The view is optimized for that scenario, and should be able to be changed for the scenario of view. It doesn't have to do that. It does mean that I end up replicating this data into yet another place, but this system should it should never change that data. It should only ever consume the data, and it can also gate the production of the data. So if it doesn't have the information yet, it won't produce the event. So there's a bit of a risk there. But it does save me from doing extra processing in the view. Although, again, thinking through it, if I don't do this part, right, and this consumes changes, the view knows all the information. So I don't have to do extra work, because I can consume the data and just not show the changes until I actually have the context. beauty of doing it the other way is that I actually can produce a stream of changes to the wider system that has the data already resolved. So if you wanted to consume prepared changes, you could consume, I want to, the planning item was assigned to this user, then it got assigned to this user. So I'm not sure what the best path is here. What I don't want to do is a load of work and manipulation in the view side of things. But if I publish this, I have to do that in the view side of things. Now the changes have to have context. Another thing, that feed is an enumerable of objects. So no matter what I do, I have to do some level of transformation to be able to use that data. So I'd still have to make it effective, I'd still have to store the view. And that seems, it just feels like that would be particularly heavy for the view to have to deal with that. So again, what gets produced is this, right? These are the types of messages that gets produced. But what I want to see is, and that when I want to show the changes on the screen, I want to show, Andrew changed the signed user from Jim to Bob on this date, right? So I can do that. I've got a code on, but I can't know Jim from Bob there. So I'd have to resolve that before I could use the data. Benefit, I don't know, it would work either way. So this is one of those instances where I've spent a few days thinking about the problem, solved the problem in my head, and now I'm talking out loud about the problem, thinking, does it really matter if I put this in changes right this second? Because it is what I want to see in the view. It is where I want to see it. It is preparing that data. Everything is valid for this system. But the challenge is I need to store it. I think it makes sense. So let's do it. Let's do it in here. There's no real harm. So what we need is let's create a receiver. So changes receiver. So I still think that it's right to change the other side to be generic changes stream, right? We'll make it all the changes. If we decide later on to make specific streams of this, I can do that as a later step. But right now, it is what it is. This is going to have to make the decision. That's all that's going to have to do and do the transformation. But I think it's okay. So this is going to be an event receiver of a change event, right? And what we're going to do, receiving messages, we're going to have receiving changes as a folder. And I'm not going to do I'm not going to do a lot of unit testing here right this second because there's still a lot of this I'm kind of thinking through as I go. Planning item, process planning item change. Okay, so this is going to be the command. So public record command. Now, the change event contains the entity type, the identifier. So the entity type we don't need to push forward into process planning item changes. We're gonna switch on that anyway. Identifier change type. Change type is this enumeration of created or updated. The source user identifier, who made the change, and then the default change event details, right? So we're going to do async task switch event dot entity type dot change event. Oh, it's a class. Derp public string entity type get equals entity type. I was treating it like a record. String entity, and then that becomes case planning item. One of the things that I do want to look into is the possibility of having, so those don't really feel like they're shared. Maybe that is. So what you can do, what I could do here is public class. See, I don't like doing this, but because it's kind of giving the events hard. Aids in readability. I know about planning item changes here anyway. These are the types of events that can happen. It's a default change event, right? Change event. The reason I can't make a subclass of this is because I bind the topic to the actual event type. So if I want to publish to a common stream, then I can't just publish different types of events. So there'd be no point in overriding these. Change event. Like, what I'm thinking about doing is having an entity type here that works. Because over here, this entity type exists in the domain here. It's not shared over here. So it's not the same, but it's the same. Right. So this is a class that gives me an implicit, I can just take it and it'll give me a string of planning item. I need something very similar. To that. Then I've got no purpose for this. Let's get it working before we worry too much about it. So this is going to do, we're going to need a sender in here. And then we're going to do Um, Sorry, giving updates. We're going to do await sender.send process planning item changes new dot command comma cancellation token. Break default break. So unless we write the other handles, this is just not going to do anything. I'm only putting default in there because if I remove that, it's going to go, where's the default? I don't want to process everything as planning item. It's not whining me for that. Okay. This is where this gets a bit difficult now because I'm going to have to pass in everything except the entity type into here from here, which is a mapping exercise. But again, there's not that much that I'm really concerned. So this GUID here is the event identifier, not the, or is it, confirm. Event ID, identifier is the object identifier. So that's the actual identifier of the object. The change type, was it a create or an update? Actually, that's receiving changes, process, new planning item. Actually, no, we just ignore that. So a new planning item just gets stored out as a create, so we can actually deal with that pretty simply. Source user identifier, entity type identifier, change type, source user identifier goes down to default change event, which has all these fields. And then these, this is where this gets a little bit messier. So there's a barrier here that I don't want to cross over. I don't want to pass these fields of this event beyond this entry point. The planning item, the command, I could pass all the objects, but the command has its own behaviors. Which makes this a little bit messier on this side. Why do I do something like this elsewhere? Is it integration, receiving messages, inbox message? So this is when you receive a message saying, oh, by the way, something changed, because again, they could actually come out of sequence. You might not actually have the changes that triggered this event yet, right? This is fired when notifications receives the planning item changes. Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm going to have to change this as well. But look, I did the exact same thing. So this is actually almost identical to what I need to do. So we're going to copy the same thing. So this is the entity identifier, the event identifier, the source user identifier, a list of changes, which is all nested under here, right? And this is an I command, a mediator command with a result. So it's almost identical behavior. That's now a change event. Actually, that switch event dot entity type. This doesn't actually change very much. It's almost identical code though. Case planning item. Ugh, I hate that tabbing does. So they're almost identical. So let's take that. Let's put that there. Paste that there. Oh, actually, I'm going to rename that for consistency between the two. Okay, add break incoming. Now, this is where this gets a little bit harder. Handler, command handler of command results. So this is going to be the most amount of processing I've done in any single handler. I've also got to decide how to store this. So what I'm thinking is that the tenant, so the view has so this gets messy. I don't want to use JSON tables. I don't want to use JSON columns. I think that gets even harder because then it's got to be parsed out and then sent down to the client, etc. I'd rather just return strings. So what I'm thinking is this is changes. This is ID, which is a big int because again there could be a lot of these all the time. Identity, make that the primary key. We have entity ID, which is an int because it links back to the planning item, not null. An entity type, which is an envarchar 100. Not null. And it has a occurred on date time, not null. So what I'm looking to do here is basically capture the data in its own record, but go and find the associated data. But the problem is if that data doesn't yet exist, because we could actually have this situation. We look at this one. I create a user. This link is for some reason down, right? The topic that this is consuming is unavailable, it's backed up, or there's a bug in it, or whatever. It doesn't matter. For some reason, a user did not get saved into the view. I assign a planning item. See, that wouldn't actually happen. That is impossible. What would be possible? But it wouldn't be possible because the view wouldn't have been able to show the user in the first place had I not actually made that leap. So to change the data to the view user, it has to be there. Is that true of everything? Is that true of everything? I mean, right now, requirements. I could have changed the requirement. No, there we go. There's the case. I could have changed the requirement, which would have made it to planning and published. The change would have triggered, and changes would have processed it. That requirement might not be here yet. I hit here. But then there's no point changing. There's no point recording that change. And I actually have that data. So I'm thinking through the use cases because it makes a difference. Because if I store what I'm thinking of storing in here, let me proceed with changing this, right? Let me say before envar max, it can be null, and after envar max. So I'm not going to store an int, a string, a date, time, etc. I'm just going to store the converted version of that. So this processor, what it's going to do is it's going to take the change, loop through the changes, and for each type of change, call whatever preparation method it needs. That preparation method is going to say, give it back an object that has before and after as strings. So if it's a user, it's going to give it the username back. What I'm trying to think through is the view has all this data. So for the view to have it, it has to be available, right? It's not like I could actually, if I built out the stream processor, the transformer layer, as this is right now. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually getting rid of that again, right? So if I built out the transformer layer, it would work, but I'd have to consume the rest of the system data into it, which means there could be a lag because the view showed it, but just because the view showed it doesn't mean this received it, because that might have been out of date. By using the view, I actually do end up with a situation where the view has to have that data. Oh, wow. Oh, joy. Hello, all. Thank you very much for the raid. That was snoozing then. How is everyone? Ironshot, thank you very much for the follow. Ceton needs to rest his voice and mind. That is a good thing to do. My PC is lagging. How was the stream overall? I've been lurking, but yes, I'm now watching myself. I'm officially here. Welcome in all. Hope everyone is good. Stream go good. Our stream go well. If we're speaking, so hope you've been having a good one. My stream went wonderfully. Refactored my auth workflow and made some progress on shooting things. That's a good day. That's a very good day. Hi, Skydriver. So I'm not working on game dev. I am working on an application. I've been building this application for several months, and right now I'm kind of figuring out how to do changes, how to display what changed in the system. So the idea of this application is one for planning. If I can't click anything because it's all turned off right now. So if I just leave it really quiet, it'll be fine. But the idea of this application is for project planning and management, etc. So I've been building this, as I said, for many months. TBD, a person, dedication, detective work. So the goal is very much one. Hi, Dog False, by the way. My apologies. Z-Men, welcome in. Thank you very much. Sidious, hello. My apologies. TBD is Batman. So the goal of this project is basically when you're managing a project, when you're managing software, oftentimes you miss the requirements because they're not all gathered, they're not all brought together in the right place, and oftentimes you end up with, hey, I need this done. Here's a story. Go work on that. No, sorry, I can never seem to catch you live. I'm happy to be here. Well, I'm happy to have you. Awesome. So basically, what I'm trying to do differently is make users, yeah, things get hairy when you don't have all the ideas and requirements. Yes. So what I'm trying to do is see if I can actually get it. If I can get it to run, it'll demonstrate a little better. Task stop from no value task from result success. There you go. That should build at least. There you go. We'll build it. Yeah, normally with Kanban boards, etc., in a progress flow for tickets. Yeah. So this is a quite large distributed system, right? So I'm using lots of different technologies, lots of different tools and toys to play with. Service bus, Kafka, SQL Server, NoSQL DBs, etc. See if we can get it to start. We've got an Angular front end, and all these projects have to start. But I understand there could be better stuff for game dev, especially. There could be better stuff for projects entirely. It doesn't matter whether it's game dev or application development or whatever. Tools to help manage. And not to derail your brain, he's still working in TwitchBot implementation at all. Not actively. I tinker with it every now and then, but I don't. I haven't tried to commit any serious time with it. Purely because I'm just I don't have enough brain capacity to work on anything work on anything else. That's a big problem. So let's see if it actually loads. Here we go. So now the app's up and running. So the goal is you click on one of these and you'll see, okay, here's my title, here's my description. And the idea is this will be more full featured in the full version, markdown support, etc. But you know, baby steps. This concept of review date is basically to help PMs. If they're adding storage, you see all these are past due, current, etc. This is calculated based upon this date, right? So if it's past current day, then you know it's clearly in the past, so it's past due. The review date is an idea of trying to make sure that PMs are always chasing requirements, right? They can't set a requirement out further than the organization lets them. So if they say, you know, you can't set a review date out more than 3 months, then, you know, it will do that. They can max it out. They can assign it to someone to work on, and they can assign projects. So the planning items itself is not kind of, well, this is a planning item in this project. This is a planning item in this project. The idea here is that the product manager themselves is saying, well, I'm not quite sure which projects it really falls in, so let's tag all these projects. We'll associate it with this. They can attach documents, etc. They can attach images, and the idea being they can go in here and say, oh, well, I want to add a new requirement. The widget should show on the thing, right? I want to see a widget appear when the button is clicked, right? That should appear. When it saves like that, it means that the backend has received it, it's stored it, and now it's published all the events out, etc. And ultimately, the goal there is to be able to attach images to those individual requirements as well as the planning item as a whole. And what I'm trying to do that sets this aside is provide the users with an ability to collect the changes together, so they can or be alerted to changes in a very dynamic way. So if I say, hey, I want to know if there's a planning item assigned to a project and its review date expires, great. You can be told about that by email, SMS, push notifications, or an inbox. This inbox won't show very much right this second. Oh, but there you go. It is showing it, right? So this is telling me the item was changed. And I changed this requirement and I changed this requirement, right? So that this planning item was actually modified. So there's going to be inbox that shows you, oh, this item got changed, and you can click it and go see what changed. That's what I'm working on right this second. But what sets this aside from the Jiras and the other tools is very much this ability to have the system tell the users what's happening without bothering the developers. Ultimately, the developers will have the Kanban boards or the Scrum boards in the traditional way, but what's going to happen is the planning item, you're going to go in here and say, promote to stories, and you can take these requirements and build one or many stories off of those requirements, and that way planning stays planning and product management stays product management. The stories as they finish will notify people that it's done. The difference between issue management, time logging, and project management is this an issue first target? So like it's not in the way. Yeah, I mean you can message Jira to make this too, but it takes like you need to become an expert in Jira to be able to do some of this stuff, right? And this is from I've used Jira for years. I haven't set up Jira from scratch, thank goodness. But it's the pain points, right? The pain points for development is often these components, and that's kind of what I'm focused on. So yeah. So essentially, you're creating the glue that will mesh all those other frameworks for organizing thoughts. It's the idea. Yeah, exactly. It's not easy, and it should be easy. um, thank goodness. So this is part one, right? The overall system design, it looks kind of like this. So we have the client. There's an API gateway. All the pieces in the back end are different APIs. So when we get to ticketing, support ticketing will be its own component. Planning is its own component. Tenant management, things like users and projects, these are all part of the tenant management thing. The attachments piece is solely managed on its own, and as is notifications is its own thing. And what happens is as these change, they publish integration events. So Kafka is very much the glue of the system, and it pushes out the data to whoever cares, and changes, watches for things in Kafka, and calculates changes. So these individual components of the system are very much building out. So the system is not one big application. It's actually going to watch for changes, and as things come through, it's going to calculate, oh, what changed, by the way. And this object extension will actually say, oh, this object changed, this value changed, etc. And it'll publish a stream of those things out, and that's what I'm about to consume now. Never have I seen such a good design diagram. Thank you. I mean, this all reminded me of how I used Asana for design and dev work. Kanbans mixed with timelines, mixed with tasks and subtasks and dependencies. But the problem is you just said for dev work as well. And the problem is most of it is not dev. Nothing in it is dev. It's all management. It's all visibility. It's all um sorry, I gotta keep it. I just got a message. It's all about management reporting rather than actual dev work. So what I'm trying to do is separate those two worlds in a way that it helps management, it gives them visibility, it gives them all the reporting they want. So in here you'll be able to see, oh, ultimately you'll be able to see the stories that are attached to this planning item in here. Right. That's kind of my goal right this second. So you won't actually have to go into the development side of things to actually see, oh, which board is it on, right? It's moving, it's got changes, it's been updated, it's been completed, it's ready for release, etc. The only reason I even update Jira stuff is so that bosses and clients know what's happening. Yeah, and I just want to make it so that you don't have to bother about that. It was dev mixed with design mixed with client work. I will admit you're talking way over my head, so I'm trying to stay up to speed in a way I can understand. No worries. There's a lot to take in something like this, right? And again, I'm going off my own experiences here. So eventually, in the very near future, what I want to do is be able to get a version of this built and running, and invite some people who I know are PMs to work in it, in a way that will help me understand if it's solving the problems. Seems like you're very much honed in on a problem that needs solving. I've been doing it for a while, right? The software development and the planning piece is something that's not familiar to me, right? You used to have a hound people to update Asana. Sounds like you're solving a headache for sure. Right. Because again, this review date and the alert and the alerting and stuff will um will aid in that. The review date will not be optional. and you'll be able to track that. Um, so yeah, one would hope the experience makes one aware enough to make things better. Yeah. Well, if you did, then you'd never have to leave your ID to update Jira. Wow, busy in here. Hey, MQB, how you doing? That's the point, though. Nothing to do with issue management or working with code. So yeah, the plan would be to have tickets, because again, tickets are another workflow through here. And early on in the process, I decided to kind of focus mainly on the planning aspect. But there was a kind of working prototype of a ticketing system. I do believe that they all hook together. I think you should have an active ticketing system that feeds through, because a ticket might become straight, it might just become straight work to do, but it also might need planning and requirements. So I do have the idea of initiatives as well. Planning items can be rolled up into initiatives, and you'll be able to see, oh, well, of the stories that the planning item produced, 10 of them are in progress, 5 of them are completed, 25 of them aren't even started yet. So that you'll be able to look at measurements and metrics in here and report on those things. I gotta go make dinner, TV, but thanks for explaining the way we can understand your work from multiple possibilities. So, folks, thank you very much for coming in on the raid. I do appreciate it. I hope you're well, and take care. You're great and crazy smart with this stuff. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's also the question of task versus project issue. I also must go. Thanks for the stream. Mojo, thank you very much. The only reason I didn't shout out, by the way, Sato, is because you brought in most of the people. I was at like 6 people, and I'm pretty sure I know who they were. So shout out seemed unnecessary. I got lost in that piece. You did bring the majority of the streaming. I would say Mojo, if I'm going to give it a shout out the second, Mojo has begun streaming recently, and maybe streaming stuff future. Twitch Mobile is worst. It's not a great app, that's for certain. Take care, Dog Fox. I could also shout myself out if I really want. That is true. Yes, you do have the little sword in here, mainly to protect us from deflux. You still never took me up on a level 4 sub. So yeah, this is actually hooked up to Azure storage. So these actually are in Azure. It will actually download. So the upload part is working. And what I'm working on now is when you go and see this, you should be able to click this and be taken to a full page detail of this, and this should show it as well. And there'll be a changes tab, and you'll be able to see this changed, and who it was changed by. So I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Dear. Always up to something. I did get a lot, man. I don't use the kind of setups, but 10,000% see the value in it. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, this is definitely I think we'll say labor of love at this point. You know, we have all these different pieces, different technologies in play. Emailing out, being able to onboard users, etc. There's a lot more to go. There's a lot of different pieces. Monitoring, you know, when something has sat for too long, when it, you know, this basically means yet to be done. But, you know, these arrows are just showing the communications in between the things. And there is a Discord if anybody's interested in asking more questions, if you want to kind of follow along here. I'm always happy to talk about this stuff. I'm always happy to share the ideas and challenges that it faces. The code isn't open source. There are some parts of it, the Kafka components and things like that I've built that I do open source, and I'm always open to, you know, if something looks like it could be more useful to the wider community, happy to share that. But at this point, this project or this solution is 69 projects. These are the core components of the system, and there's so much technology. I just don't feel that open sourcing something like this would give any value to anybody. Because it just be too much to take in, right? It take ages just to even figure it out, even if I wrote it up tightly. So yeah, yeah. So what I've been working on this evening is actually doing the change calculation. So it kind of planning items produces these changes. So actually, if I go over here, and I should be able to see that. There we go. So when I updated the planning item, it produces an event that fires out. Here's what changed. So the idea of the integration is very much when you change something in the system, it stores it first. Its main priority is storing the current version of data, and then it produces an integration event. So rather than using the database to calculate the changes, I break out calculating changes to a separate process. Benefit, I get speed of data write because the data is just stored and moves on. I'm not doing anything complicated with it. So if it fails, I don't lose that data. I've just saved the data and turned around and produced it. So the integration event fires and stores the current actual, it produces everything that should be publicly available to the rest of the system. The changes didn't, oh yeah, it did fire the changes. I've just changed how I do it. But then the changes says, oh, by the way, before the requirements look like this, now the requirements look like this. So it's now showing me that I've got those requirements. So what I'm working on now is making that a meaningful change. Like consuming that and figuring that out. And actually, that one is actually its own challenge. Because what I was about to do is create a table that has before and after. That won't work. So if you're doing something like that where it's just text based, before and after makes sense. But if I change the assigned user, I'll start it all up again. Things get so complicated so fast with data relation. They do. One of the challenges of this system, or when you do anything that's distributed, is being strict on the whole who knows what about what. Like you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 actual databases plus a NoSQL DB for changes. Redis is just a cache for changes right this second, or for eventing. But it gets complicated very quickly. And it's very easy to make that justification of, well, I kind of have the data there, so why not use the data there? One of the benefits of doing it this way is my view here, right? Right now, you could say, oh, well, it's just all the same data that's in the other pieces. But the view can be optimized for the view usage. And what I actually use is GraphQL. So I actually create a bunch of views on my view database that make these more readable and more usable, right? The benefit of that is I can expose GraphQL against these views. And now on the client side, if I change up what I want to see, I just change a GraphQL query. I don't need to change the entire application. So from the code perspective, the view, the actual API layer for the view looks like that, right? If I want to get more information, I can add more information to the model, but I can pick and choose how much information I want from that. And I can compose that data in a way that I don't have to have it so that it's optimized for the write and the read, um, which is why I focus so much on this piece, right? So these are all writes. There's nothing read on here. Manatonis, thank you very much for the raid. Welcome in. How's it going? You haven't seen Manatonics before. Making a how do I describe it? There you go. What? Oh, you gave the shout out already. Thank you. I'm not used to having someone do that. But I was stopping over here anyways. Tactics-based monster battle. There you go. My apologies for not being able to describe that properly. He's starting off with game development in big ways, and is very worth checking out. I can tell you that much. So very worth a follow. Well, the thing is not my normal sort of game, right? So I don't quite know how to describe those sorts of games in an accurate way. Back when I was young, games were much simpler. You had 4 colors. So going back to what I was describing before, the databases over here are all write databases for the majority. There's no query against these databases at all. And again, it's very difficult once you start, when you're like, well, I've got the data. Why do I need, like, these don't even share dependencies. There's no data dependencies here. So this database here doesn't use, yeah, these are databases. I'm just identifying, yeah, common depiction of a database in diagramming. But I'm not querying these to get data to the UI, right? They're only ever written to and published data from. So these are what you would call your source of truth. But even though I reference a user in my planning item, it's only a user identifier and it's a shareable identifier. Tenant management owns my user and publishes that user information out, and Kafka consumes it and my view consumes it. So my view kind of pulls all this data back together. And it might seem illogical to do it that way, but it does mean that I have greater resilience. I do have these data stores are pretty much, there's very little actual behavior here. Everything else can be extended on the top of the system. And what you've got is a core set of data that's safe. Notifications processes changes and says, oh, does someone need to know about this, by the way? So the way the notifications works, by the way, is when I go into the UI, if I care about an object, that's loading. If I care about this one, I just hit this button. Right now, it's going to do a pop up. Ultimately, it's going to change the color. But now I'm subscribed to this entity. So if someone changes something about this, when I go into my notifications here, I'll see that appear right now. Again, building on the system bit by bit, day by day. Yeah, you need a source of truth, at least in stuff that many people access. I think in game this terms, but yeah, you do have some web dev experience too, a mixed bag. The output, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. So the idea with the source of truth is you can have a representation of that data in other parts of the system. So again, user exists here, planning item exists here, tenant exists here, attachment exists here, but they're not the same as those. And these are the source of truth. This owns planning items. Nothing else in the system should be able to change planning items. Even if it's got a copy of it, it's going to be told, here's your actual data. You don't need to change this at all. So that even the client is going through the API gateway and querying GraphQL through the gateway, and it just pulls that there. So the benefit of such a system is that I can add on to this system very quickly. I could adapt the data in different ways. I can pull the data in different ways. It just comes with a lot of complexity to get there. And it's not quite so simple as, oh, I want to add a button on a screen. You're not just going to add a button on a screen and make it save in a thing in the database and you're done, right? So there's a payoff to this. The idea of source of truth helps even with single player games, especially when you properly separate logic and UI. Yeah. If you're copying that data to somewhere else for visibility, it's okay to do that as long as you understand that you're not allowed to change it because there's no reason for you to change it. You'll be told when it changes. So yeah, it often becomes a bit of a difficulty for someone to comprehend as a developer why you wouldn't just say, well, I've got planning. Why not pull my user in here and stuff? And once I started building it this way, a lot of things started to click into place and make sense. Like I said, it does come with some challenges. So when you're building the view, you also have to contemplate what happens if I don't have all the data. So to make the view data integrity, you actually have to say, okay, well, I'm going to get data from here and here, but if I get this message before I've got this message, what do I do? And you have to make sure you don't lose that data in the transfer. Yeah, it brings more complexity kind of, but pays a lot of dividends when you start actually making it. The view can be anything then. Yeah. Yeah. So it's fun. It's a challenge. The design has been challenging, but it feels good, which is the main part, right? It feels fun to develop in. I'm enjoying myself. And again, I'm 10 months into a side project. I haven't stopped yet. That's awesome. The view can then be anything. And also you can build a different, if someone says, oh, we want a different UI or we want a different client or we want a mobile version, you don't have to be like, oh, now we've got to hook a mobile version into the API and you end up modifying one API. Well, if it's a mobile, then you do it this way. And if it's this, you do it this. You can actually build a mobile view off the GraphQL API, or you could create a brand new API specifically for the mobile equivalent of it. It's fine. And all the same APIs work because they are made to take that data. So you do get a lot of flexibility and advantages out of a system such as this. But as a solo developer building this, it's I'll be honest, if I'd be lying if I didn't say there's some days I thought I could have made this much simpler. So yeah. And you can see there that's a 9 plus. So to get the application up and running with everything, it involves starting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 services, plus the Angular view, and plus console, Kafka, Mongo, Papercut, RabbitMQ, Redis, and SQL Server. So there's a few moving parts. So it's not microservices. This is referred to as modular monolith. And I have moved a few of these around already. By the way, none of these services take more than 50 meg of memory to run and do what they're doing. So they're all pretty lightweight overall so far. But there is a lot of moving parts. Also, in a team environment, each one of these components could actually be its own independent team. Modular monolith, the microservices, same thing, different packet tech. Yeah, generally though, the idea is that the microservice is a smaller unit of work. The modular monolith is the same concept, just more functionality put together so that you're not breaking it up even into tinier pieces. So it's coming back up and meeting in the middle of, well, I don't quite want this massive application, but I don't quite want this tiny, like 1,000 tiny applications. So let's have dozens of smaller but manageable. And again, what this does provide for me is the ability to kind of keep these a single responsibility. I can reorganize these. I can move parts about pretty simply. We don't need that folder, by the way. I decided not to go with that one. I have benchmarks projects in here because I want to keep an eye on if I change the logic for calculating changes, that I don't drastically improve the or increase the processing time. Wait, what is your code edit? It looks like VS Code, but also kind of doesn't. This is JetBrains Writer. It is my favorite tool suite. I have DataGrip for my database stuff, WebStorm for my Angular stuff, just because it keeps it separate from merging in with all the .NET stuff. And then for the .NET stuff, I have Writer. I've been using this for a few years now, and I'm pretty happy. And this is the new UI, not the old style, which is still available. Okay, so again, what I'm doing here is going to be a little bit different. Use a lot of IntelliJ for work. I mean, one of the best IDs. Yeah, it's a great suite of tools. Just all around, a great suite of tools. So I'm going to have to give it a few more minutes, but I have to wrap up shortly. But what I need to contemplate here right now, this is, I'm kind of back to the drawing board. So these changes come out looking like this, right? So in this case, I need to resolve this identifier. This is the publicly shared identifier. This is what changed. And that's why I've done this in the view. The view has access to that data. And by doing this in the view, I do know that that data is ready because I can't have selected it. If it wasn't ready, I can't have selected that. The record has to be there. So it's a safe bet. And ultimately, what I'm looking to do is say, oh, Andrew changed the assigned user from Jim to Bob. Andrew changed the requirements and added this. And that's why I just paused before, because I don't think the SQL database is the best part to consolidate this down. But in the same, I don't think this is best done in real time either. I think I want to pre-calculate this. So I might be back to my original design. This is either going to get very much simpler or way more complicated. I'm not decided on which yet. One of uh, the nice thing about developing this way is that I can change something. I can build something, and if I don't like it, I can change it in a different way. The application's not going to fall apart. While I'm ahead out, I'm pretty exhausted after doing a longer stream than normal. Hope the rest of your stream goes well. Anatolic, thank you very much for raiding in. I do appreciate it. I will see you again soon. Rest well. Got worried back when my JetBrains school license ran out. Luckily, work provided. I mean, don't use for hobby stuff. For hobby stuff, I use VS Code. Even some with home configure stuff like 6502 compilation of VSC for C# stuff. Yeah, easy to maintain. Very good approach, in my opinion. Appreciate that. But like you said, Sato, it's a scary dance. Like I can tinker with this. And actually, early on, I did the ticket system, and I actually did the tickets using Couchbase, another NoSQL option. And then I decided that the configuration of Couchbase was causing me some challenges. So in I think it was less than 2 hours, I swapped out from using Couchbase and moved it over to SQL Server, and it worked the same way as it did before. There is some basic ticketing components in here for adding notes and but this was back before I decided to use GraphQL. So there's actually a list controller in here, a list endpoint. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in that I never actually took too far. But again, I swapped out the technology in a couple of hours. Hello, dog. How are you doing? Have a friend. So I'm not scared, and that's a big part of software development. I feel the more scared you are of changing things, the less likely you are to change things. Oh, he's disappeared off. I haven't got a camera set up for them yet. We have two, Loki and Taylor. But yeah, there's the more scared you are of your system, the harder it is to change, and actually, the more likely you are to make the system harder to change. Let me see if I can find. Let me see if I can find. Do I have? I don't share pictures of my dogs in my stream. I share them in other Discords. Where would I have shared one last? I know where I just shared one. There was one the other week. This one. Really, dog? That's Loki. And that's Taylor. And that's Taylor crying right a second. If you can hear her. Oh, where we go? How I use computer. Yeah. That's Loki. That's Taylor. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Hello, Missy. um, One part of being a programmer is to have to encourage to scrap stuff and go in another direction. Rarely there's a case where what I first thought and developed was the way it was finished. I've only recently reached a point where I actually enjoy ripping things apart and rebuilding. It's an important aspect that every developer should learn, right? Don't be afraid of your code. Don't be scared to change something. Write the code that you're willing to change and build systems that are. You don't have to build for the future, but you do have to build so that you are not scared to change things because you will write in defensive code. You will write in, oh well, what if? And that will make, as I say, your code is a story, and if you write lies in your story, the story won't make any sense later. So there you go. It's yours. You built it, and you can build it again. Also, if you build it, they will come. Yeah, terminology. Yeah, it's true. If I write like if command.entity identifier equals GUID.empty, right? I just told a lie. That can't ever be empty. But I just said, if you're reading this code, that can be empty now, right? I just You don't know any different. You don't know that that can't be empty. So now I've just told you it can be. I just wrote a lie in my code. My story is now wrong. So, you know, remove that, tell the truth, right? That's all I need to do. I'm realizing there's so much in my games recently. I've heard and experienced lying comments, but lying code, gosh, what? Yeah. So easy to prepare for scenarios that will legit never happen if you code everything correct. Exactly. So I don't try catch. I don't put any code in there that's basically, there's a few scenarios where I do explicitly catch because there's an event that may happen, and all I do is argument throw if null, and it's clear that it's different to everything else. I'm not testing if it's null. I'm just saying if this comes back null for whatever reason, throw an exception and blow up. But I don't trust myself to write correct code. That's why I tests. Yeah. Testing is something that I do on this project. I do write unit tests. The problem is when I stream it, it's hard to write it's hard to write tests on stream. So there's only why does that one? Yeah, blow up and let me find where I messed up. Exactly. You want to fail out as quickly as possible. So there's only 270 tests in the application. I'll let that one slide. The language in this stream I generally keep pretty easy. That's a pretty tame one. Also, I hate past me. He keeps giving me curveballs, plays fast and lifts the code, and no maintainability. Bastard. If Deflux would say it, don't say it. Generally good advice. So yeah, there are unit tests in here. Not as thorough and as deep as I would like to go because they are they're kind of covering pieces either after the fact or whatever. But trying to be improving. Hello. Okay. You want to go out and play in the rain? With the lightning and the thunder? Pretty sure you're scared of it. So yeah. It's fun. And I will add more unit tests over time. It's just again when I stream it, it's really not engaging to be writing unit tests all the time. People, if I'm showing the dashboard, if I'm showing visual progress, it definitely is more interactive than me writing unit tests. So yeah. Okay. So that being said, I am going to have to disappear. Maybe it's tough to write tests while conversating too, since you're trying to think of edge cases, right? So when you're writing unit tests, you want to start with the simplest cases, right? You want to start with, oh, what happens when this, and you don't want to write to again, it's the telling lies, right? You want to write, oh, if it doesn't exist, it creates it. If it does exist, it tells me it exists or whatever. Then you want to think about, oh well, I'm adding this. What should happen when attachment doesn't exist, the attachment is created. The result contains the ID of a new attachment. I'm validating that. Nothing else. If I get a bug, what I should be able to do is if I get a bug, I should be able to recreate it in my unit test. I'm going to give up. So, and then I should be able to find that bug, fix it, and have a regression test, have the test built for it. And now I'm telling the truth again. So it's a little hard, but this little one is not going to stop. I don't know how much of her you can hear, but she is crying. So yeah, unit testing, you don't want to be writing, oh, well, what if this, what if that, what if this? What you want to do is write what you know you need to do, make the truth. Don't go beyond that. Don't think of crazy scenarios. Wait until they appear, then write the unit test to prove the bug, and then fix the code. And now the unit test will pass, and you fix your bug, and all your other unit tests will pass. And if they don't, you've introduced a regression, and you've firmed when they're green, you've firmed up your code. You've made sure you've not introduced more problems. Okay, so we're going to raid Motsy Makes because I have to go and eat something. It's 10 o'clock. Testing in production is fun, but it would be nice to be more prepared. Absolutely. That's my jam. Fix the bridge when you're crossing it, kind of like premature optimization. Yeah, it's a hard thing to hold to, especially when you've got someone saying, "Please fix this. I want to change this. I want to add this. I want to do this." But developers need to be more empowered to say, "No, wait, one thing at once. Let's do things properly, and then your software will work better." And that's kind of why I'm building what I'm building, because I think developers need that. You're leaving, and I just got here. Also, hey, Cypher's one. I'm sorry, I do need to go eat. Thank you very much for coming in, though. I do appreciate it. Yeah, we've been. I didn't get much progress made, but I did get to show the application off to some new friends and some older friends. So I'll be back tomorrow. I will actually be back. I will be streaming tomorrow because I do need to do this piece. So I will be working on this tomorrow afternoon, trying to get these changes figured out. I don't know whether I'm going to go back to an original plan of kind of preparing the changes. So yeah, heck, I must be a 10x developer or something. I have the confidence to say to a client, nope, not happening. It's just about being strong on that, I think. Best of luck with the project, that's it. So thank you very much for the raid once more. Let's go raid Motzi. Take care all. Have a great rest of your day. Great rest of your evening. This is so much fun and user, an absolute legend with Devon. Awesome stream. Thank you. See, man, thank you very much. Thank you for coming in. And take care all. I actually have a stream deck again. It's awesome. I need to remember I've got it. Bye all.